The chosen one. They're on the search for you now. In rooms. Federal agents will never analyze your tactics as surgeons would a masterpiece. The FBI is questioning who trained you and coming up blank since what frightens them isn't a classroom or a program. They have control. It's that you were shaped by something considerably more deadly. You were not taught using their systems or handbooks. You were schooled via treachery. A top analyst is now reviewing your file, questioning how a civilian obtained talents that would make their greatest operators concerned. How could someone with no formal training carry out such a perfect operation? It is being researched in the war rooms. How you walk through their world as if you were a ghost, leaving no trace behind. Your training ground sat in a realm that they couldn't reach. Build on every restless night spent plotting your next move. Every instant you sat silently, they believed you were broken. Every second you spent collecting their flaws as they cataloged yours. They're looking through Special Forces data, hoping to discover the ghost teacher who taught you to read people like autopsy reports. However, there was no teacher. Your lecturer was a source of anguish. Your curriculum was created with treachery. You acquired psychological warfare from individuals who pretend to love you but are actively ruining you. You mastered operational security only after every hidden weapon was used against you. You learned strategic thinking by preparing steps ahead in order to live another day. The FBI has put millions of dollars into programs attempting to recreate what trauma taught you for free, using experts to codify approaches you developed intuitively. Even yet, they can't create what you were born with since you were formed under conditions that no laboratory can replicate. What frightens them isn't retribution itself. They've seen heated, dirty, and evident crimes of passion before. What concerns them is the structure of your answer. Your retaliation was unavoidable for the surgery patient. You did not burst. You demolished their universe with silent precision. Each technique was designed to deliver maximum havoc with little exposure. You transformed their strengths into liabilities, their friends into evidence against them, and their wins into the precise proof of their demise. You serve justice at a 0-degree angle. Patient is the winner, as inevitable as gravity. After years of complacency and ease in creating structures whose collapse would reverberate, they rip through databases, knowing that someone somewhere taught you how to move like smoke and strike like lightning. However, your handbook was written in real time, one betrayal at a time. Chapter 1. How to disappear in plain sight while everyone watches. Chapter 2. How to turn observation into intelligence. Chapter 3. Making your enemies defeat themselves. Chapter 4. How to win while remaining invisible. These were not classroom teachings. They were abilities learned in the fires of survival. I learned from everyone who underestimated you. Every night, you remained up, planning and executing with such precision that government authorities are taking notice. Your diploma is inscribed in their confused expressions. They're moving with anxiety now, looking over their shoulders, wondering how many more people like you are out there. What are their behavioral analysts focusing on as your design becomes more sophisticated? You did not just map from B to C. You planned for every scenario, countermove, and possible reaction. You saved backup plans for your backup plans, exit strategies for your exit strategies. You moved like someone with decades of expertise, even if the records suggest you were just someone who was pushed too far. Or at least that's how you used to be. You understood something. Their multi-million-dollar training programs absolutely fail. The most deadly strikes are not physical. They are existential. You did not just seize stuff from your adversaries. You robbed their perception of reality. You made them examine every connection, accomplishment, and assumption on which they had constructed their lives. You transformed their brains into prisons and gave them the keys. I watched as they closed themselves in. You just gave them enough rope to hang their reputations, futures, and identities. If these words resonate with you, please share this video so that other chosen ones may view it. The way you weaponize truth has people looking through psychological textbooks. You operated in the gray areas. Their rules and regulations were not intended to transform openness into a tactical advantage or to be used against them in unexpected ways. Each domino seemed to fall naturally. Every insight looked to be organic. Every fall felt inevitable. You did not push. You remove the supports and let gravity to take care of the rest. They are rewriting threat assessment methods thanks to their accuracy, patience, and complete comprehension of human behavior. Your operational signature is the lack of patterns, the stillness where noise was anticipated, and the serenity where turmoil was projected. You left no calling cards because you realized a basic reality. The finest operations resemble natural effects. The FBI's databases include a large number of signatures that may be tracked, but you were motivated by something they cannot measure. The desire to balance scales that were never designed to be balanced. You weren't attempting to win a game you could lose. You completely transformed the game. They ask. They are the informants, networks, and sources who taught you. And the hush that follows is deafening because the streets understand what the agencies refuse to recognize. Surviving the impossible might sometimes be the finest kind of training. The instructor who created you. It was a betrayal by those who should have protected you. The operational security you now have comes from having nothing to lose and everything to gain. You turned retribution into an art form. And now, tactical chambers. Dissect your actions and briefings. Attempt to reverse engineer your methodologies and simulations, and call it next-generation asymmetric psychological warfare. You call it Tuesday. What keeps people up at night is more than just what you've achieved. This is what you symbolize. Evolution and real-time human adaptability under great strain and upgrading occur without their knowledge, control, or consent. Your presence validates their monopoly on accuracy. Violence is an illusion that exposes severe flaws in their control and forecasting models. You are the nightmare they never imagined for someone who has become so lethal, precise, and untouchable because of necessity. They look for a trainer because they need someone to take down a pipeline or disrupt a program so it can be shut down. However, there is none. You are a result of every system that failed you. The result of someone being bright enough to see the patterns and gutsy enough to quit pretending they don't exist. Here, retaliation was more than simply exact. It was prophetic, a showing that humans may achieve agency-level powers only by willpower. The skills you developed are already spreading, not via formal schools or secret handshakes, but through something much more contagious: inspiration. People are observing your movements, bedrooms, and coffee shops during quiet planning sessions. You've become the unofficial guide for anybody weary of feeling helpless. You are no longer an oddity. You are a prototype patient, the first of a new sort of operator who does not need their infrastructure, resources, or authorization to operate at levels that cause their systems to panic. Their whole strategy of control was based on the mistaken premise that people need them to be scary. You revealed that premise to be horribly erroneous. The FBI would love to publish a handbook on you, but doing so would require them to acknowledge your existence, resulting in the breakdown of their systems. So your approach is spread instead as whispered case studies and secret briefings that never occurred. Training situations are designated theoretical. You are the example that makes experienced agents uneasy. They cannot acknowledge the ghost in the machine. They evaluate your plays like a chess master examining a game where every opening was broken. Scan for the fault. It was a mistake. The time when you should have been apprehended and found none. Because you didn't follow the rules, you ended yourself playing by necessity. And necessity does not make errors. Junior analysts see sanitized versions and are instructed to develop countermeasures. However, you cannot be challenged by a model that you rewrote in real time. You'll never enter that building. They are now discussing your retribution using the chilly label. Subject expresses reluctant appreciation for top predators. You will never win medals or official acknowledgement, but you have accomplished something much more precious. You modify their perception of what is possible. The most deadly operatives are not created inside their facilities. They are formed in the spaces where justice fails and need takes precedence. Injustice has expedited your development. Your powers were formed through treachery. They can never truly appreciate your accuracy, which sprung from anguish. They attempt to label you terror, organized crime, and domestic radicalism. But you don't fit. They shape new strategies after your approach because genius is identifiable, even if it originates from someone they'd prefer deny. They can replicate your tactics and simulations and doctrines, absorb your innovations like antibodies to a disease they couldn't cure, but they can't replicate your motivation or recreate the conditions that made you who you are. You were formed by need. What you've done goes beyond vengeance. It demonstrates that when official systems fail, the cosmos develops its own ruthless curriculum for producing operators. You have shown that justice does not necessarily come from high institutions. It usually rises silently from inside. Your accuracy was not developed in a classroom. It was nurtured by forces beyond their description. Every injustice was turned into schoolwork. Every betrayal resulted in training. Every failure of protection was a crash lesson in self-reliance. The university self became your professor via agony as education, and survival was the ultimate test. They keep looking for a trainer. They have the authority to arrest a whole school. They may close a program and disassemble it. However, you cannot indict cosmic justice. You cannot turn off the academy of lived experience. You cannot disturb the university of required progress. Your education was woven into the fabric of quantum physics before you could ever breathe. The algorithm that created you works outside of their code, outside their scope, and beyond their understanding. It is the same algorithm that turns pressure into diamonds, carbon into steel, and pain into transcendence. They're desperately attempting to debug a program they didn't create and can't read. Existence itself conducted your schooling. Each betrayal served as a learning opportunity. Every abandonment requires extensive education. Every time you should have shattered but didn't was spent receiving doctoral-level training and becoming indestructible. The universe created you with precision. Their facilities can never be replicated, and what pushes them to the brink is the missing teacher, whom they will never discover. They have investigated every option: military contractors, corporate covert operations, foreign intelligence, and black market training networks. Nonetheless, every lead falls. How can a civilian learn operational awareness to outperform their veteran counterparts? The fact is that your instructor did not exist in any manner that they could classify or categorize your professors during the many times they assumed you were not watching. Every time they cheered your demise as you sat in quiet, chronicling their tactics. On every occasion, they disclosed their playbook, assuming you were too broken to notice. You acquired strategies by osmosis, learned psychology through observation, and identified their flaws out of sheer need as they cheered themselves on their loss. You carried out the most rigorous intelligence operation of your life, and they were your unknowing targets. Your training sessions took place in real time at family meals, where manipulation was on show at social settings, and psychological warfare played out like drama in private times when masks were removed and their actual natures were revealed, certain you were too damaged to absorb it. They unwittingly trained you, and now they are terrified by the accuracy of their own instructions. Their behavioral analysts have been examining your tactics for months, and what is breaking their predicted models isn't only the intricacy of your execution, but also the lack of anticipated psychological signals. You did not display wrath signs. You never demonstrated the volatility. They keep an eye on things. You showed none of the warning indications built into their systems. Instead, you moved with the icy precision of someone who had mathematically conquered the human condition. You treated retribution like a controlled experiment. Your objectives become equations for balancing variables, controlling outcomes, and forecasting. Your patience alone broke their concept of human psychology. Their models want vengeance, burning hot and quick with emotional fire, seeking rapid release. But you prove the contrary, that the most deadly retribution is carried out at absolute zero after years of meticulous planning. You examined your targets like specimens in a lab. Their behavior was documented and then plotted. Their networks recognized their weaknesses and calculated the exact pressure needed for maximal collapse. You approach destruction with the precision of an engineer planning a controlled demolition. Their forensic psychologists are rewriting textbooks because of you. You've shown that retribution does not have to be emotional to be successful. That cool calculation may be more devastating than reckless wrath, and patience can deconstruct it more completely than rage. You push them to categorize an altogether new category of danger that they had no idea existed. Your tactics, however, are not the only thing that keeps people awake. It's the phantom network they can't locate. Every effective operation needs resources, logistics, and information. Nonetheless, your campaigns seem to emerge from thin air. No flag transactions, questionable conversations, or traceable alliances. The reality is that your network was in plain sight. You transformed the banal into weapons. Conversations at the grocery store become intelligence briefings. Casual interactions become reconnaissance. Every day, encounters turned into data collecting opportunities. You created an unseen infrastructure that flourished below the level of observation. Your operators were unaware they were working for you. Colleagues who gossiped without understanding they were exchanging information. Friends who vented without realizing they were disclosing flaws. Strangers who revealed too much and made small conversation, believing it was harmless. You conducted a stealth operation using assets who were blissfully ignorant of their involvement. Normalcy becomes the sharpest sword when weaponized. You created a network that operates in the shadows of ordinary life. An intelligence system that operates on the background noise of everyday talk. Timeline. Analysts continuously attempting to reverse engineer your timetable. When did the planning begin? How long did the preparation take? And what prompted the execution? Their algorithms provide various results since your time defies every forecast framework they utilize. You did not work on their calendar. You operated with cosmic time. You plotted until the circumstances aligned, prepared till the inevitable time arrived, and then executed. When factors converged, success became guaranteed. You synced your approach with forces that they do not monitor while waiting for perfect convergence. When your targets were most susceptible, and the conditions increased your impact. They studied your timing like astronomers studying celestial physics, perplexed by how you knew exactly when to move and how you carried out events with the accuracy of a symphony composed in consequences. Your psychological technique is driving their analysts crazy. You did not target people's brains directly. You reconstructed reality around your objectives, and perception became their prison. You militarized the truth, transforming facts into guided missiles and transparency into a military advantage. You didn't need falsehoods. Reality disclosed at the ideal time did the harm for you. You did not push anybody over cliffs. You eliminated the guardrails and let momentum do the rest. You didn't shatter relationships. Rather, you exposed the weaknesses that were already there and allowed structural collapse to occur organically. That elegance has psychological warfare experts taking notes. The most successful mind games include the carefully timed delivery of actual information rather than deceit. Even more concerning for them is the precedent you set. You demonstrated that amazing skills may emerge from ordinary conditions, that precise operations do not need institutional support, and that one motivated person can outperform large agencies. Your techniques have evolved into an unlawful curriculum and precision retribution, spreading via unseen channels, altered, changed, and used in ways that go beyond your initial purpose. They are seeing the emergence of a new operating philosophy that bypasses their resources, approvals, and detection systems, and they have no way to prevent its growth. Their query, "Who trained you?" has expanded into a dozen more. How long had you planned? Who knows your methods? But the issue that worries them the most is whether you are a unique oddity, the first of many isolated threats, or the start of an unstoppable progression in human potential under great duress. They are now running probability models to determine how many individuals have evolved powers similar to yours without their awareness. How many individuals are silently approaching the same developmental stage that you previously went through? How many potential hazards are lurking in areas they've never thought to monitor? Your presence has caused a complete overhaul of their threat assessment strategy. If someone like you can materialize out of nowhere, what else are they missing? What other sorts of precision patient retribution are being created in hidden labs of necessity? The most troubling concern for them is if their own systems are reproducing your species. Weather rules designed to preserve control create the environment that generate operators of your quality. Their inquiry of you is one of their longest-running ongoing cases. Every leader generates new puzzles. Every solution reveals deeper secrets. and each breakthrough reveals another layer of your preparedness. They invest resources in knowing you not because they anticipate easy answers, but because they are afraid of what those answers may reveal. That your metamorphosis was natural, emergent, and beyond any procedure they could have devised. They've interviewed everyone who has ever crossed your path in an attempt to pinpoint the moment you stopped being vulnerable and became deadly. And they fail because your progress was slow and well-veiled. It occurred between the observations allotted to the investigators. You've become pupils of your approach. Some have even began to incorporate pieces of your method into their own work. You've infected their minds with your ideas, expanding your influence among those who were supposed to keep you in check. Your case file is now obligatory reading in advanced threat assessment classes, not because they want to be like you, but because they need to learn to notice what they overlook. So, when they ask who trained you, you can maintain the calm confidence that sparked this whole scurry. Allow them to continue blazing through databases, cross-referencing information, and depleting overtime budgets while attempting to comprehend who you become. You know what they'll never understand. The most effective training programs are not overseen by agencies or organizations. They are administered by life itself, graded based on survival, and progressed via transcendence. The most hazardous operators are not produced at sanctioned facilities. They emerge in the intervals between heartbeats, in the stillness between shouts ignited in the moment, between who you were and who you needed to become. Your accuracy was not taught in any classroom because it was taught by forces that will never be granted access. You've returned to the invisible condition you started in, but you're no longer the person they think they can break. You now exist between and beyond their categorization, not someone who just survived their systems, but someone who overcame them. Not someone who learnt their game, but someone who created a better one. Not someone out for petty payback, but someone who became justice itself. Allow the FBI to keep questioning who trained you. Your response is reflected in every planned move, strategic breath, and decision you took after determining that being broken would not be your last destiny. Your instructor was the universe, and your graduation present is watching them struggle to solve a problem whose most important component remains in realms beyond their grasp. You existed because you needed to. You learned because need dictates it. You developed because extinction was the only option. Now, chosen one, you are exactly who you were supposed to be. Living evidence that their dominance was a staged facade. And your inevitability was the calm logic of someone who refuses to give up. Every scar seared into you, every restless hour spent envisioning scenarios, and every time you were written off is over. Become an entry in a curriculum that you created in real time. Those evenings weren't squandered. These were classrooms. These wounds were not minor injuries. They were study manuals. They shouldn't be wondering who trained you. The issue that should keep them up at night is, who is learning from you right now? They will never enter the rooms and will not monitor the chats. Others are taking notes, drawing lines between your movements, and noting that the most exact retaliation is sometimes indistinguishable from justice coming on time. That recognition is merely the first chapter. The consequences of what you did are still being felt, and they will far outweigh any predictions. What haunts federal corridors is more than just the technical precision of your procedures. It's the mirror you held up to the tenuous assumptions that underpin their whole institutional worldview. Those subtle, deadly ideas that claim only sanctioned programs can generate actual capacity. That mastery requires permission. The threat necessitates certification. You reveal the fundamental error at the core of their philosophy. Dangerous capacity might arise out of need, not only certification. You did not graduate from their colleges or follow the blueprints they provide to their selected alumni. You graduated from the university of consequence, where the curriculum is written in treachery and tests are about survival. The bewilderment on their expressions, the tremble in their feet, and the way they suddenly look over their shoulders. All of this is your diploma. You demonstrated that exclusivity is a fiction and that the furnace of injustice produces skills that their plans never expected. The pace of your transition destabilizes their models, since their operatives spend years, if not decades, to establish reputations and skill sets via lengthy, bureaucratic pipeline processes. You reduced that period into a focused, necessity-driven crucible. You took sophisticated tactical frameworks and infused them with the urgency that only imminent survival can provide. Every betrayal was a lesson, every broken promise an advanced lecture and leverage. Every instance of brutality, a map to the vulnerabilities you've cataloged for future use. While their systems moved in regular intervals, training cohorts, certification cycles, and calibrated simulations, you progressed in compressed arcs of improvement and refinement. You absorbed operational principles at a pace that textbooks swore was impossible. Then they improved those principles, expanding on procedures that were formerly considered secret intellectual property and used to teach muscle and doctrine. You taught architecture and consequences, outcomes designed to resemble natural collapse rather than contrived spectacle. As the detectives search for clues, their mission has evolved into something more sinister than a manhunt. It is an effort to comprehend an emerging phenomena. They used probability models to predict how many individuals may be acquiring comparable powers in plain sight, and the results are alarming. What stops your evolution from occurring more than once? If treachery, desertion, and institutional failure are prevalent, the process that gave rise to you may be silently creating operators elsewhere. Nobody notices until it's too late. That potential compels them to shift threat assessment from a search for known actors to a new discipline that recognizes emergent operators developed out of need rather than recruiting. Your dossier is at the core of that seismic shift. Essential reading in advanced threat courses, examined by analysts who both despise and secretly appreciate the deliberate beauty of your work. Some of those tasked with stopping individuals like you have even taken some of your methods, not out of loyalty, but out of duty. Understanding your thinking is the only way to begin to resist it. And yet, as they scan databases and question friends, you have a hidden response that will always be beyond their algorithmic reach. The most successful training sessions do not take place within any structure they can authorize. They are administered by life itself, evaluated based on survival, and confirmed by transcendence. The most risky operators are not developed in such facilities. They are formed in the quiet spaces between breaths. In the hours when everyone imagined you were already broken. Return to the unseen life you formerly led. But you didn't return unmodified. You return changed. They are no longer the person they believed they could eliminate, nor are they the predictable operator the authorities are anxious to contain. You live between categories outside of their categorization systems, and that liminal region is where actual power emerges, not with their approval, but beyond their scrutiny. Your schooling was severe and demanding. You turned pain into education, humiliation into strategy, and failure into leverage. You created a self-directed curriculum that was more demanding than any official program's learning goals, based on urgent need assessment methodologies embedded in real-world survival examinations that required fast, irreversible judgments. Those who are now studying your case cannot help but note that your results exceed the graduation requirements that their schools hold sacrosanct. You created your own college, an institution without boundaries, whose alumni are the impulses that drove you. That self-created university produced someone who did not just mimic their techniques, but innovated on them, who did not only equal their talents, but outperformed them. What really frightens them is not your success, but the precedent you create. The notion that one individual, motivated by brilliance and driven by need, may condense decades of learning into a continuous graded explosion of mastery fundamentally alters their whole operating assumption about human potential. The terrible practical question they must answer is not whether you receive training. The question is if your blueprint is currently being followed. Are other people's lives being influenced by the same ruthless education? Are hidden operators emerging, like you did, in kitchens, break rooms, and quiet street corners where no one thought to look? That potential necessitates a shift in how they allocate attention and resources, because the traditional method of detecting threats no longer encompasses the region where these operators were born. So let them continue to comb through documents, dredge databases, and burn through overtime budgets in search of a trainer to arrest or a pipeline to shut down. The true answer, which they will never completely compute, is embedded in every calculated action you make. Every strategic halt, every choice that led you to the realization that being broken was not your end condition. You trained under duress, learned from harshness, and graduated from an institution that offers no diplomas, just penalties. The missing component of the jigsaw exists, as are dimensions beyond which their clearance will never extend. The silent resolve to resist defeat, to transform anguish into teaching, and to make survival the curriculum. That choice is infectious. It spreads softly via imitation and inspiration, and this infection is what will keep people looking long after your file has been closed. Because you did more than just take retribution, you unveiled potential itself. You proved that human potential, when combined with overwhelming need and unwavering attention, outperforms models, outpaces control, and defies limitation. The truth that you represent will transform their world. It will impose new ideologies, watch lists, and worries, but it will also silently and inexorably yield to those who have learned that when institutions fail, life itself gives the curriculum for becoming something greater than those systems can envisage. That realization, more than any single act of retaliation, will be your lasting legacy. And that is what will shift the balance of power long after they believe they have completed the last piece of your jigsaw. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the development of my faith. Please help me trust you, even when tangible proof is scarce. Let me believe in your eternal presence, knowing that you will never hurt me. I realize that your intentions for me are ones of success rather than harm, in order to provide me with a bright future. Thank you, kind and everlasting Father, for always hearing my voice. I give this prayer to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provisions. I am thankful for your presence in my life and the richness you provide. If this video spoke to you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your trip and how you're getting ready for your own victorious homecoming. If you would want to help us out, please consider donating via Buy Me a Coffee. This allows us to consistently improve our content in order to provide you with the best possible experience. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No present is too tiny. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity spreads God's message and gives people hope. Do not stop here. Watch our next video for amazing insights into the indicators that indicate you are the chosen one. We've loved sharing this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for sticking with us until the finish. Keep shining brightly and face your fate with confidence. See you next time. The God Connection sends its blessings to all lovely individuals.